Alright, so now we're ready. We're going to put our spot elevations in. And what I do is I start around the building and work out. Just works best that way. When you do that, if you remember, I mentioned that just as regular line work has layers, your Civil 3D objects have layers too. And so we want to set our layer for labeling for spot elevations to our spot elevation layer. Whoops, clicked on the wrong one, spot elevations. So I'm going to set that layer in here, and then I'm going to annotate, add labels, surface, spot elevations. And I'm going to start with, I've got several different ones. I'm going to start with just regular spot elevations. And I'm going to add, I'm going to turn my snaps on, and I'm going to start, ask me the surface. I'm going to start at the door. Okay, and then I'm going to pick this corner. Excuse me. And this corner. And if you remember correctly, so first thing I'm going to do is double check. I can't remember what my finish floor was. Make sure it was 104. Yep, it was 104. Sorry. So if you remember everything, we offset a tenth for our vertical changes in everything. So we're going to offset a tenth. So when we designed this, we had our finished floor at one elevation, and then we moved everything a tenth. So our spot elevations, because we snapped to the corner, it picked up that. So we're going to move those a tenth. It's just part of what we have to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my UCS here, because my project is parallel and perpendicular to the building. The parking is, this job, everything is. So if I change my world coordinates to that, now everything's parallel and perpendicular to that, so I can do a lot of, turn my ortho on and off. So I'm going to move those a tenth in that direction. And once in a while, I don't know why that didn't pick up just right. Oh, all right, let's go back, sorry. Okay, so we can move this one a tenth, and it's right. But this one, because we have this scenario right here, like this, and we offset it a tenth right here, we just pick that corner. If we move it down that, we're still on that 104 line. So we have to move it this way and that way. So you have to think about how you laid this out and how you designed it when you have bump outs and stuff, because it can be a pain to remember how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this whole corner right here, because I'm going to pick the other one first, because I can move all these at one time if I did it right. Okay, and I'm going to erase this one. I'm going to do those two the same way, because you have that scenario when you got that corner right there, and it's unique for this type of building that I'm doing, so everybody's not that way. So I'm going to take everything and move it a tenth in that direction. Then I'm going to take this side of objects and move them a tenth in that direction, and this side of objects and move them a tenth in that direction. Alright, and so that should pick up the corners. And if you look right here and check this, we can go back to this drawing to double check ourselves to make sure we're right. We're going to add some lines, labels here. We should be 94 and 96, and we're 96 and 94, so we checked ourselves. Okay, then I'm just going to, I like to, when I go around the building, I like to clean my labels up as I go. So I'm going to pull them out. And they all have arrow circles at the end, so you can see where they go to. And contractors really like spot elevations. They don't like you to just throw contours on there and run away. Okay. Now we're going to label the top and the bottom of the ramp. One nice thing about surface labels in here, spot elevation. One good thing about these is they're always going to be the world. They're always going to be 90 degrees. They're not going to take on the UCS, so I can keep my UCS. I'm going to have to keep going back and forth because I'm going around the building. I'm going to move a bunch of stuff. So pick a surface, and I'm going to put top, bottom, top, bottom, top. So of course it picked up that corner, so I'm going to pick that corner too. So we're going to we got to move these off a 10th. And I don't know any other way to do it. I've been doing it a long time. I don't know any other way to do it than to put them right there and do them a 10th. It's easier for me to take them and move them a 10th than it is for me to try to draw reference lines and crap like that to try to figure out where it is. And I got a bunch of extra stuff in my drawing that I don't know what to do with, So, alright, so that gets me to there, and I'm going to put one just right here. I'm not going to put a whole lot around this corner. I'm just going to put one right there. Got to move it that way, but I got to move it this way too, because it's a corner spot right there. That'll let them know they're cornered right there. And then I'm going to grab, instead of changing my spot elevation to top and bottom of curve first, we know that this is a bottom right here, and that's a bottom. So I can label those two spots right there. And then I can click top and bottom of curve. And if you remember, we talked about that we offset our top and bottom of curve a 10th because of the angle, because AutoCAD can't do a vertical, if you remember that. And I always make a point that the point that I know I'm going to label in the drawing, which is on the sidewalk, it's the top of the sidewalk, that's the true elevation, and the 10th is out here. So that makes labeling these so much easier. I can just click right here and right there, and I know that's correct. And you know it's correct too, because if I was a 10th off, I'd be 6 inches wrong, and that number right there and that number right there should be almost the same, if not the same. And if they were 6 inches different, I grabbed it to the wrong spot. So I can grab those spots right there. And then if you remember, we made this section across here flat when we designed it. So we want to pick that one and that one. And then here we can pick right there, because we did that when we do back a curb. When we drew the back of curb, we let the face of the curb be the real elevation, and we offset a 10th and then 4/10 to get to the back of curb. So when we label the curbs, we'll always label the back of the curb, because then we know we have the 6 inch elevation. If we did the face of the curb, we're going to be 6 inches low, and everything's going to be messed up. So then we'll clean these back up, pull these out. And while I'm here, I know that this layer right here needs to go off, because that fence is going away. And some existence and some demo stuff. And then I'm just going to clean these up right here and right here. And you could let your designer do this, but I don't like them to, because I designed it. I know where I put the elevations, and I don't want somebody else coming behind me and labeling this and not knowing what I did. I know that they're right because I designed it. So whoever designed this should label this. This may be the only drawing that you've labeled, or only sheet that you label. You don't let somebody else do. But I want to know what they are. I know what the elevations are. I know where I put brakes in this thing, and I can do it in about a third or a lot less time than they can do it, and I know it's right. Because if I let somebody else do it, I'm gonna go back in and I got to check them all. By the time I could check them all, I can probably put them in, because it's takes longer for me to kind of explain to it as I go. So I'm gonna put them here at this door, right here. And if you noticed, I grabbed the wrong thing. I don't want those to be top and bottom of curves. They're just top, so I can do a match properties of those two. And then I can move these out a 10th like they're supposed to be, and they have the right elevation on them. And then let's go change that back to just spot elevations. And then this is not a top and bottom of curve, because really what you have is, and I'm going to draw it in here, you have a break, because this is basically the top of a ramp. A lot of times, I'm going to match the property of that one so it gets the right looks. A lot of times they'll just slope all this up out there in the field. Sometimes they do it like we do it, but what we know is that we designed it for that those numbers are good right there. Okay, and now that actually is a top and bottom of curb, and so we want to change that one to top and bottom of curb, and I'm just going to match properties. I could click on it and just change it physically, but it's easier for me to match properties. And so now it gets a little crazy right here as far as cleaning up. I'm going to take that, I'm going to move these around. There's also an art to labeling stuff and getting stuff on things, and people think, oh, you just throw it in there. I said, no, you gotta clean it up, make it look good, but it's also sometimes difficult to lay it out like you want it. Now, so we know what those are. Gives our tops, the sidewalks and such. Alright, so we've worked our way around the building to this point. Let's do this corner right here. And it's going to be a 10th off here, 0.1. And you could do top and bottom of sidewalk here. It's fine. It's not as critical right there, because they're gonna make that dirt 6 inches or so low anyway, because that's actually existing grade around there. Let's go ahead and do our HVAC pad. So we're going to be at here and have all these elevations right here.
Units in feet?
Say that again?
Are the units in feet?
Yes, this is in feet. This is real world elevations in feet. And we know that these can't be 104. We know we moved those a 10th. So we got our HVAC pad put in right there. There, and really and truly these should be tops and bottoms of curbs, because it's not a curb, but it's a sidewalk, or it's a pad, but it's going to be 4 to 6 inches low, so we'll just show them that way. And the same thing on the outside corners. We'll put the outside corners in. The most important thing is the top elevation. And they'll put the dirt where they need to put the dirt as far as outside. But if you want to call it top and bottom, you can call it top and bottom. I've done it both ways, and nobody's called me and complained or said, hey, I can't figure it out. What do you want the dirt to be out there? So I've done it both ways. So clean that up a little bit. Light down a little. Okay. All right. So we're all the way around the building. So now we're ready to do the rest of our parking lot. So this corner right here is a little difficult, because if you remember if you look at our design drawing, we're not exactly we're a 10th off of here and a 10th off of here, but it's a funky angle, so it's going to be a little different. But what we do know is that bottom is 103, 346. So when we label this one here, at this point right here, okay, that's 3.5. We need to be at 8.5 for the top. So we move a 10th that way. Let's move a 10th that way. Still not there. 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 So I'm not real sure where it ought to be. So on this one, I'm going to actually go into this one, and I'm going to copy that. Clipboard, copy. I'm going to change my UCS back to world, and clipboard, and paste original coordinates. And now I know where that one has to be. I know that's kind of a round the world way to do it, but if I'm not sure, I can pick it and now it's right. Now I know that it's 6 inches high. So when I do my back of curb right there. Now what I could have done was I could have just put an elevation right there at the bottom and not called it top and bottom of curb, and they would assume it was the bottom. But if I do that, then they're gonna call me and want to know is it top or bottom. If you do it the way you think it ought to be done, they'll want something different. So try not to give them anything to think about. So I'm gonna label the corners of here and this corner right here. And that gives me my dumpster pad. Okay. And now I've got some ridge lines in here because I actually did put those in there, and it forces the water to drain different, so I want them to drain along those lines. So this fixes in here, so I'm going to label some of that too. I'm going to have the same problem on the back side back here with this, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'll copy that, and I'm going to paste the original coordinates because I'm going to have the same problem right here with labeling this one. So turn my snap back on because it's the back of curb, because I need to make sure it's right, because when you have problems grading it like I did right there, that whole thing it'll throw the whole thing off. Now I'm not going to put the back of that one because that's going to be basically existing grade right there. I'll let them figure that one out. Same thing here, that's going to be existing grade because I'm going to put a note here that says match existing right there, and I'll let them put that in there. What I do know is I have one right here because if I have a break line here, then I also have that break in my curb, so I want to come in here and actually need to, because I need it to be at the back of the curb, not the front of the curb. I need to kind of tell it where it needs to go. I don't normally have that, but once in a while I do. And I need to change my style here so it's easier to work with. But all right, so they'll know that one goes there. And then I think I have one here, so I'm gonna go back here and look. Even though I didn't bring the line in from over there as far as a break line, because it's doing, but I do have a break in that line right there. And so I need to make sure I get that. That's why I want to label this and not let somebody else, because sometimes it doesn't matter if you label those or not, because really and truly this might have been a straight line through here or something, but then sometimes it's very critical because that's a difference in this thing being too flat or too steep or whatever, so it becomes very important. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it really is. And I want to label the back of the curb, not the front of the curb, face of the curb, so I get the right elevation. So I extended that to that because it's not going to pick up the elevation at feature line. It's going to pick up the elevation of the surface. So where before the feature lines meant something, so now I can just erase that off because they know that line's right there. All right. So we'll get it around here. Now, the rest of that is straight lines. Everything else is a straight line in here. So I'm going to label back of curb, and that's going to be meet existence, so I don't need to label that. I'm going to click that one, and I'm going to click that one, and that's basically meeting existence, so I don't label that one. Label that. We're just going to go around and label the rest of the curb as we go. Okay, click here. Always back of curb, and we're going to click that in, and that's just going to transition down. We know that's 100, so I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm going to do the back of the curb right there, and I did an apparent intersection command right there, and just zoom in to make sure you get to the endpoints of everything. and we already have one there. So don't take but a second to go around and label it all. That's why I said this is a quick job. This is a 20 or 30 minute job if you do it. It's a 20 or 30 minute job if you have somebody else do it for you. But what I know, if I do it, I know I put them in the right place. If somebody else did it, yeah, hopefully they did. But they're gonna miss your. What's gonna happen is you're gonna have an important spot. Like I dropped that brake line in, you're gonna have an important spot that you didn't label, and you're gonna get screwed with it. So that's why I label my own. Okay, so we got all our spot elevations in. We're good with that. Now, I do like to always label my handicap spots. Put a spot right, let's see, here. Put one right here and one right here. Okay, I always like to label these because handicap can't be greater than 2% in any direction. And if I tell them that elevation, that one, and then I'm going to put some slope areas in here, they're going to know that they put it at the right elevation. And if they screwed it up, it ain't because I didn't design it right. Okay? Alright, so now I think that we've labeled all of our spot elevations like we want them. I'm just kind of scanning through. We have. So next step is we're going to put slope areas on here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my 10 surface label. And now instead of spot elevations, I've got a label for slope areas. Okay, and now if you remember when we did our existing conditions, we're going to use this handy dandy water drop so we can get our slopes in here. We already know what it is, and I have a label for this one in here so that when I select similar, I don't really screw anything up. We already know where the water goes from our design, but we're ready to label it, so we want to put them in here. So we're going to just run water drops, and we're just going to fill this thing up with drops of water so we can see how everything goes. We see how everything slopes here. Get enough because we're going to put slope areas to verify that we knew what we were doing. We designed it, and nobody can question our design too much. Okay, so we're going to just run those through there. And it goes like that. Okay, so we got slope areas in here. Now we're going to change our snap to nearest because we're going to use those. We're going to annotate our lines. We're going to go back to surface slope, and I have my slope. Now I want to slope this one, and we're just going to put slopes in here. Always go from high to low, so go from this point, your marker down. Okay, because you always want to show a negative slope. Okay, and I'm just gonna put a few in here. It doesn't matter a whole lot how they go. I mean, where they go, just show them, you know, so they get the gist of how things slope. Your biggest thing is, whoops, redo that. Your biggest thing is that you want to make sure they understand where water breaks. Now I'm going to always put one on my handicap space in both directions. And see, that one's almost at 2% right there. I got pretty close right there. And I may go back and tweak that just a tad so that we don't have that, because that's a little closer than what I like for it to be. Let's finish putting slope areas on here, and we'll talk about that. Okay, about if we want to come back and make some changes to that. Okay, and we're going to go down that. Whoops. What happened right there was I got off on my slope of my curve right there, because it's not 4%, it's 1%. But I got that offset of that curve, that 10th, I picked that up accidentally when I did that one. Okay, so it's going this way, and so we look good here. We're gonna go this way. Oops, We might be a little flat right here. A little flat right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back here and pick that corner up when we design it. See, sometimes we miss it. Hard as we try, we still miss it a time or two. We're trying not to be too steep through here. Doing our best to have this in here. So everything looks pretty good so far except for that one corner. It's a little flat. It's kind of flattened right there, but it's all sloping out. It is what it is. There's not a whole lot you can do with that. It don't matter what you do. So I'm not going to label that one. Then we're going to show it going this way, and this way, and this way. And we're going to show that this goes that way, and that goes that way. And we look pretty good. So this was flat, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here and take that, and I'm going to go from here, whoops, right here, go from here to here, 75%. See what that did to that? That's 1%, 1324, 1324. So what I got to do is I've got to change that point right there. I got to add a label. That's 1324. Flip that over. Flip that over. I've got to come in here and I got to find that point. It's easy to do. You just click. There it is. Instead of 6, it's 103, 3.924. 824. Sorry. 824. Same thing here. Let's find that point when the arrow comes up. 103.824. Alright, now we'll come in here, right click surface, and rebuild our surface. Okay, that looks good. Save it. Click back in here, synchronize. Slope shouldn't change. Should change. Now what we're going to do is we're going to delete all these off. Select similar erase. And we're going to come back and put them back on again in case this changed just a little bit for our slope. It may not have. Hopefully it stayed the same, but it may have changed just a little bit. See, it changed just a little bit in the directions that it went when I did that. So these are not any good right here. Those are still fine. So we can go back in here and add slope arrows. Turn our snap back on. Click on that. Slope 2 point. Now we're at 0.5%. We're on 1.1. So that's much better. Okay. Those are the kind of things you just have to tweak as you go, and but that is why I use a water drop, because now I know exactly where all the water went, and I know exactly what the slopes are. Okay, so I finalized this. I'm good with this. That'll wrap up grading for right now, and we'll clean some stuff up later, and I'll finish my drawings and such. So